So, I guess about October 24th, Anita Sarkeesian on her feminist frequency Facebook or Twitter, pardon me, tweeted, "Not a coincidence, it's always men and boys committing mass shootings. The pattern is connected to ideas of toxic masculinity in our culture." What is she talking about? I've never heard anyone use this phrase before, toxic masculinity. She needs to explain what this means. She really does. Okay, you can't just start like pulling out new phrases and language that no one knows what the fuck you're talking about, and then just pretend like everyone's just gonna fucking nod their head, even though people who like her and follow her will just fucking nod their head like, okay. I don't really know a lot about Anita Sarkeesian. I guess she's quite critical of video games and stuff. I think I tried watching one of her videos once. I just got bored with it. Either that or I just thought it was stupid. And stuff. I mean, what is she trying to say here? That women aren't capable of committing a mass shooting, or that they just don't, or that they haven't? 'Cause I'm pretty sure I don't even have to Google this to know. How do I know? Well, I don't know. I'm just being stupid here. That there has been at least like one female shooter, at least, and that's all you need. You just need one to disprove her. Just one. That's all I need. I just need one. Which I'm sure there are. There have been. I'm fairly certain about that. I mean, what pattern here? I mean, doesn't she understand that just about every mass shooter, and even a lot of serial killers even, they had mental issues. They had serious issues. I mean, seriously. I'm not trying to like be judgmental or anything. I'm just saying, like, these weren't just run-of-the-mill Joe Schmo guys, okay? These were... they needed help, okay? They needed help. I mean, I don't think it had a lot to do with masculinity. Lacey Green kind of did something like this a while back when Elliot Rodger did that thing, that shooting. But she just kind of, because really Anita's just oversimplifying this, and instead of saying, no, it was linked to masculinity, she just said it was linked to sexism. That's all it had to do with. But I mean, if you do research on Elliot Rodger, you'll know the dude had mental issues. I believe he was seeing like a therapist or a psychologist or psychiatrist or something, was being prescribed medication that he was not taking. And I'm not trying to excuse that or nothing. And he also, if you kind of read his little manifesto, it's kind of a little autobiography. And you can kind of get the idea that, something bad was going to happen with this guy eventually, I mean, he was kind of a moron too, but that's not the point. Point being is Lacey Green just kind of simplified this and just said that this was just simple sexism. That's all it was. Even though if you read his little manifesto, you got the idea that he hated both men and women, but for different reasons. Okay, now back to Anita, oversimplifying mass shootings as just negative ideas associated with masculinity. Yeah, right, it has, it has nothing to do with mental illness or gun laws or gun control. Yeah, it has nothing to do with that. Obviously. obviously. It's just so obvious. There's just an obvious connection between mass shootings and toxic masculinity. There's an obvious connection there. Oh, there's not, Anita. Actually, she didn't even say obvious, but does she just think she's making some absolute statement here? Like something that just can't be questioned at all? Does she think she's just shitting bricks of gold? I don't understand this at all. You know, something I find interesting about Anita is even though she likes to point out a lot of sexism in video games, she doesn't point out the opposite, the contrary, when women aren't being portrayed as damsels in distress. She never does that. I wonder why. Actually, if you really go into majority of video games, most video games in general don't really have any type of theme of sexism or gender roles and none of that shit. There's no, there's a lot of games that just don't. They're just kind of, they don't have any theme like that. I mean, what about racing games? Oh yeah, obviously tons of sexism there. Okay, a little, I guess, going off topic here, but I just don't get just how she can just think this is just correct, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you, go through the history of mass shooters or even serial killers, you get the idea that these guys weren't mentally okay. They didn't have their heads screwed on right, okay? That these weren't just run-of-the-mill Joe Schmo guys, okay? They weren't. They truly weren't. I mean, I honestly think if negative ideas about masculinity was the cause of mass shootings, I think there would be a lot more mass shootings. There would be several mass shootings a day. But let's propose that this is correct. What's her solution? How does she plan on fixing this? And besides, doesn't mental illness and gun control seem to just make better sense? I mean, to me, this idea is more far-fetched. I mean, when you see this stuff being covered in the news, there's a reason why the discussion is usually mental illness and guns. Because people usually want to know two things. One, how did this guy get a gun? And two, why did he do this? What were his motives? What was going on in his brain that allowed him to do this, or that made him do it? And what about masculinity would cause any guy to go out killing people just senselessly? I mean, I just don't get that. I mean, yeah, guys tend to have higher amounts of aggression because of more testosterone and stuff, but not to that extent. In my opinion, that has nothing to do with testosterone. That has a lot to do with craziness. Crazy people go out and shoot other people. Non-crazy people don't do that. And also, I think this is kind of just not a good message to spread because we're not really looking at the root cause of the problem. And I think even if we did look at this from this perspective, the problem wouldn't be solved. It would only get worse. I mean, I think we need to improve the ways we deal with people who just aren't mentally well. And I think when it comes to guns, I think to some degree, yeah, there should be mental evaluations when it comes to getting a gun, to some degree. Yeah. So I just don't understand. I mean, I get they're feminists and they're they're standing up for women's rights and fucking fight the patriarchy, but they also have to be like against masculinity and stuff. They also have to do that. Put men down. I mean, is that really a good thing? I don't know. Well, I guess that's all I have to say about that. Until next time.